Welcome everyone, welcome to my channel, Overlanding Omar. I hope you enjoy this video of me making my box out of composite panels and that it's useful for someone who's doing the similar project with their camper box. Just a heads up guys, there's a lot of time-lapse clips in this video. It's the only way I could get it down to like a reasonable time. It's already well over an hour, but I'm hoping with the footage that's being shown that it'll be useful for someone who's actually getting into building a camper of this size and magnitude with composite panels. How ridiculous is this? Glasses, sunglasses on top. These panels are just ridiculously bright and glaring. Anyway, I've committed, I've trimmed it all up, and now I've marked. This hole is bigger than I expected. I should have done a 10mm or less just for the blade, which I did after that. And this is going to be the opening. I don't know if you can see that hole over there, and the one over there. And then this is a 50mm lip for the floor. These are the sides, and I'm about to set it all up to plunge cut. And this is the top panel, which will go up there. Yeah, so I'm just going to double check my measurements and plunge cut away. Alright, what are we doing here, Mick?
Again?
What are we doing here, Mick?
Scratching.
What are we doing?
Scotch Brightening.
Scotch Brightening.
Trademark.
And I've lost mine. I think I took it back in the house.
Others are available.
You are. So I'm just going to give you a quick explanation of what we're doing.
Do you want me to film you and you can
Yes. So what am I doing? I am, you can see this. I don't know if it's the right angle, but that's all scratched up with this Scotch Brite. This is the roughest one you can get. So the idea is to make it quicker to do. So I've done all this side, done the bottom, masked off the edge so that it doesn't get damaged. I'm not sure if we're going to keep that bit or not, or it's going to get covered up. So right now I'm doing the edge, which is much more awkward on this side because there's not much room. So I'm doing this bit here, try and get some rotating movements, and then doing this corner. So this whole area, I'm going to come around there, Mick. So this whole area here, around here, and this bit here is going to have the panel onto it. So anywhere where there's a panel and the adhesive is going on there, needs to be scratched to create a key for the adhesive to glue onto or to grip to. That includes the panels over there. So my lovely mate here, Mick, he's helping me out, and he's doing the other side. So basically that's all we're doing. So we're not going to film it all, are we? Just the basic. Hey?
Time lapse.
Yeah, but we'll time lapse the panel going on, I think. And that's it. Cool. So what's happening here, guys, is that panels are off and masking tape's going on to segregate the areas that need to be keyed and basically sand them down or key them with a Scotch Brite ready for the glue to be applied, and then when it's stuck to the frame it's got a better key for it to bond, which is what is recommended. It's hot, very hot and humid, sweating buckets. So, because I'm an old bastard, glasses. And because I'm on the ski slopes of France, I have to wear these as well because this stuff is so glaring. Anyway, just moving on. We've now sanded back this bit of fiberglass. We're trying to sort of key into the gel coat. And this is about 75mm wide to match the frame of the truck. And that goes all the way around And this is the bottom part, so you see these weird looking cuts here. That's because of the welds I had to put in at the bottom. So if you look all the way along, they're pretty much down there. On the other side, there, the other part of the frame. So this is the top of the box, sides. We got this right there.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom. The bottom. It's not actually Sikaflex, but it's similar stuff. So I'm going to do what you see everybody else doing, although this looks really messy. I'm hoping that's enough. My tubey thing's long actually.
Icing a cake.
Hey?
Icing a cake.
I can't see my glasses. I need to hit that bit of metal that's exposed right there. So, let's see, can I do this? Oh, it looks a bit thin. Was it?
Remember, the people that do this and you see them doing it, they're professionals and they're doing it every day. They've got their own little ways.
Wear my sunglasses. It's too bright out here. Anyway, see how many clamps are on there? I'm about to take them off. It's been on since Monday. I'm just going to get my sunglasses. Sunglasses on. I can see now. Anyway, as I was saying, lots of clamps everywhere. So I'm about to take them off and see what it looks like. This is the doorway. And I've been busy today making the really big clamps that are going to hold the big panels, like the ceiling, the sides together. So this is the prototype. I'm using a wedge system to tighten it. This is the board that's going to hold the panel. This is the clamp part, goes all the way there, like a big T-clamp. I've welded some brackets to give it more strength, as you can see. So I made this little L bracket out of steel. It's only temporarily put on, and that's the other board that's going to hold the composite panel, and then this is the T clamp, if you like. That's what it looks like. I think I need at least 2 of them. I might even make a third, depending if I want to make another trip to Bunnings and get more wood. So that's them. They'll probably be used for the roof panel, side panels, and maybe even the back of the side panels at this end. So I'm going to take these clamps off and see whether that T-clamp that I'm making today will actually work on the back here, because of this buttressing that I've made, which is flared at an angle. At the time it seemed like a great idea, still is, I love it, but for clamping purposes it's not so good. Putting up panel number 2, 2/6 of a box. What are we doing today, Mick? I can't even see you, it's so bright.
Having more fun.
Having more fun. It's so bright. I put my sunglasses over my glasses again.
Living a summer dream.
Alright, so just going to set you up somewhere. I think we'll put it on time lapse. So this is basically a repeat of the previous panel, masking the areas where we're segregating the keying area from the rest of the panel. And that, what you saw, was the back of the panel being keyed ready, and then obviously glue's applied to the frame, just as the last one that you watched before, and then the panel is glued onto it and then clamped on with all the support bits of wood and a billion clamps. I exaggerate, but there's a lot of clamps to keep the even pressure all the way through, especially that central part of that beam, which was very difficult. We used wedges for that one. As you can see, all the clamps are off, and there were a lot, as you can see there. I'm quite happy with the way it's glued on. Gaps seem good, not too squished. We're always going to have issues with this bit under here because there's no way of completely clamping it directly. It looks pretty good down there. I'm going to have to blow this out and seal it because it's starting to fill with dirt, which is not a good thing. Should have done it at the beginning. And yeah, this side looks pretty good too. Not too bad. It doesn't look like we've dented it too much on this surface here. So we're trying to push quite hard in the middle here. I need to push against that piece of steel. And the top looks pretty good. The ladder. Last run of the ladder. You can see here, it's glued quite well up here too. I think I'm going to fill this bit as well so the dust gets in there. It's a good opportunity to see the lip here. That's where the roof panel will sit on top and bed onto this. It's 50mm down, and the whole lot will have a capping to keep it waterproof. But yeah, I think it looks alright for the second panel attempt. Not bad down through here. I think I'm going to seal this sooner rather than later because I can see it filling up with dust, especially the bottom bit. I'll have to clean that out. Anyway, on the ladder, and let's keep working. Yes, you need a lot of clamps. A lot of clamps for this job. And more of there. So put them away in a minute. I've got the piece of wood as well. That's what started this. I need this piece of wood to make the clamps, the big clamps. These are my homemade ones. You see the difference in size. Yeah. So these are the ones that I've made. You got 1 there, 2, 3. They're braced, and as best as I could, got them to 90 degrees. So if you look at this one, which is the prototype, that is the hole for the swivel part. I'm just about to do this one and that one, and I'm going to now cut the pieces down, which I have. So these have been cut down to 90mm here, so they can slip underneath and be level with the front part there. So I'm going to just mark these in the middle, drill a hole right through, ready to take these nuts and bolts as a pivot, and these two are going to be made into the wedges like these two. So I'll put you back on the stand and you can watch from here. which will probably be in about a week's time, maybe longer. So that's enough for one day. I'm going to take my lovely hounds for a walk. Another step, small one, but another step closer to this camper build. So yesterday you'd have seen on that sped up footage, I've been making these long reach clamps. They're not the best, but I ain't got time for prettiness. So here we go, these are them. So I sprayed them up to make them look good, or rather none of my clamps will reach to grip. So that's that one. So there we go, homemade clamp. So you can see this is a 120mm reach clamp. This is mine. You can see the difference in the reach. And it seems to me that generally 120mm is the go, 120 from here to here. Masking tape, masking tape, masking tape. Basically masking ready for the beading of the sealant and the adhesive. Lots of framework to get around. Double masking, so masking the framework, masking the panels, and then putting the bead on, letting it skin over slightly, and then using the old soapy water method to smooth it down, and then peeling off all the masking tape again. So it's irritating but necessary. Pick time. Sixth of a box. So what I'm doing here is preparing a load of 20 litre jugs, I guess, with water to use as weights to hold down the floor panel. This is the old Pantech panel, which I'm cleaning up because I had a few rivets and bits and pieces and glue stuck to it. I wanted it nice and clean and flat, and that was going to literally compress the bottom panel down onto the steel bed itself. Using those jugs of water, and at 20 litres each, that's 20 kilos per bottle, plenty of weight to spread it out evenly. And luckily that old Pantech panel almost fit perfectly because it was the original side of the Pantech truck, which is not far off the size of the floor of the actual steelwork frame. What you see happening now is preparing the panel that's actually going to be the floor. Now with this panel, it was recommended by the panel makers that I didn't really need a double skin. So this one only has 2mm fiberglass on one side and just the XPS foam on the other side without the fiberglass. As you can see when you flipped it over, then it's blue on the one side and white on the other. And the idea is that because the floor of the old Pantech truck, which is now my floor of my basic camper, is checker plate steel, there's so much strength in it, there was no need to have any fiberglass to add any more weight to the whole project. So it literally is the foam being glued on straight onto the checker plate, which has obviously been painted and protected and sprayed with 2-pack, so it's well protected. And that's basically what you see me doing now, is getting that panel prepped, ready to fit. And with my mate Ron, who's lifted it up there with me, we're placing it to make sure it fits nicely, none of the welds are interfering, and it reaches the 2 panels that have already been glued on. That piece of fiberglass that you saw me handling a second ago was to make sure that the panel was the correct distance from the edge of the complete frame, because obviously the wall panels will be going down straight onto the steel frame but abutting to the floor panel. Mick's arrived as well to give us a hand with this, because this panel, obviously with only fiberglass on one side, is actually very floppy, if you like, is probably the best terminology. It's not stiff enough to handle, and I have to say we did struggle, the 3 of us, to make sure it didn't bow down and touch the floor and pick up any dirt. So what's happening now is I'm spreading all the glue along. I've got my shoes off to keep the bed clean. You've seen us wipe it all down with alcohol or methylated spirits. I've put some masking tape on the panels to stop it going up on the panels, and it's basic prep of the whole bed. This used a lot of glue. I'm not sure if I probably overdid it, but at the end I'd rather overdo it than underdo it, and we're just getting the edges ready there to be able to receive the panel. I had to walk through the glue, it's the only way I could support the panel, so I had to take my socks off, step all over the glue, and yeah, as you can see by these pictures. I've got to go up to here. You got it in there? Yeah. So I've got 4, 5, 80 exactly. You want to go right to the bottom? In there? Yep. Yeah, 4, 5, 80. I'm going to check the top. So if you grab that ladder.
How long if you use the ladder? How long will leave that before?
Fine. I have got another one, but I don't trust it. This one. So now I'm going to go that way in case I'm reading. Oh no,
Say again.
we'll swap over so we both have the reading together.
Yeah.
So I'm not having.
I'm saying you can film this, but then we can do the. Then you can give the figures as opposed to. Oh, what have we done first?
I'll go one first to make sure it's the same. Right, I'm going to pull against you.
Yeah, go on.
So this is slightly wider, but it's 4, 5, 18, 180
Go one halfway up, just have a check.
I mean, you should, but are you right? Yeah. Right, I'm going to pull against you. Yeah, 4, 5, 70. So we're at that stage where we're going to put one of the side panels in, the first one from that pile over there, and we're going to place it on the driver's side. So what Nick and I are doing right now is measuring the bottom. Catch it, man. measuring the bottom from end to end, the length of the panel, not so much the inside but the length of the actual panel, which will go from here all the way to the front to the other frame, not the panel. And that comes in at 4580, so 4580. And when I welded that front frame up, I wanted to make sure it was about 5 mil tighter at the top. It actually comes in at about 10 mil tighter, which actually is not a bad thing. So what that means, we can push the whole frame back, the front one, and let it squish naturally onto the glue, and that will hold it all together rather than trying to force it tight and strap it, which would have been okay, but this way it's a much nicer way of doing it. So the top is 4570, the bottom is 4580. That gives us a 10 mil difference, which we can just pull by hand as we put the panel on, and it will squish perfectly. So that's at 2400 plus the 50 that goes up, like the measure tape is, that's 2450. So this from the top should be 2450. It's actually 2445. Cut. Alright, so this one's at 2450. There's a discrepancy of 5 mil. That's 2450. That's 24 exactly, plus the 50 going up for the roof. 2450. This is the first driver's side, I guess, panel that's going to go on the box. So Mick and I are basically measuring and double checking measurements, and the first port of call is to trim the panel to size to fit the frame on that side of the box. We'll go a good 10 mil.
Generous 10 mil?
I'm very generous helping, sir.
How's that really good in this matter? The other box.
It's quite good.
How generous do you want it?
Like almost 11.
Reading there, 478 and a half.
Yep, 78 and a half.
Yeah.
Yep, on this side. Okay.
Yeah. 78 and a half. Right, so that's dead on 1330 now.
Should be the front end. Now we've got another one there and another one here. What we're doing here is marking out all the apertures in that particular panel. So there's a window, in fact there's two windows and two hatches at the bottom. You'll notice later on that the windows I cut out, but the hatches I only partially cut out to give the panel some rigidity and integrity. And what you're seeing here is basically making sure all the lines are parallel from top to bottom, side to side, and making sure the actual apertures are measured as precisely as we could. This is an overhead view of the actual panel again. You can see clearly the actual openings of the windows and the lines, I guess, of the hatches. What I'm doing here is making the rebates, which will house the top panel or the roof panel as it comes down when it's assembled. And you can see that I'm just knocking out one of the windows. I think that's going to be the living room window, if I remember correctly, or is it the bedroom one? I can't remember. Depends on which way the panel is. But yeah, a good view of what you can see on that panel from up at the top of the frame of the actual box. another great view from top of the box. You find me doing this process of first marking where the plastic protective film is and then peeling that off. Then it's a case of marking where the edge of the keying needs to be done to slightly scuff up the gel coat to make the glue bond better. And it's basically a 3-stage process. So peeling the plastic, marking where the lines, where the masking tape is going to go, which is what I'm doing here with a red pen, and then running the masking tape on those lines to basically protect the rest of the panel from the actual sanding or scuffing of the gel coat ready for bonding. So all these panels that are already in place on the frame are being prepped ready for the side panels to be glued on later on. I think it was the next day. So now I'm going to do this edge here, run along there, put a bit of tape just there so that I can just sand this bit without damaging this bit for now, even though it'll all be keyed at some point. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. And now for the bottom. So, just a quick overview of what's happening today. As you can see, it's quite sunny. It's a little bit cooler, but I'm sure it's going to get hotter. It's forecast about 31, but with the glare of this white stuff bouncing back at you and the heat from above, it gets quite tiresome. So I'm hoping I've lined up 2 or 3 friends to give me a hand to get this panel up, the one that I'm sitting on right here. I've got a few more things to do to prepare it, and it's going to end up going on the driver's side. The driver's side, which is, I'm not sure if it's in the camera's view, it's the far side of the box, looking at it from this side. It's quite heavy. I think it's around 70-80 kilos. We're going to use the suction cups, and you've seen from before the cutouts of the 2 windows, something to hold on to. So today I'm just going to sand down the bottom where it meets the bottom floor sheet to give it a bit of a key. Then I'm going to mask off, well, I'm going to mask it with tape first so we don't scratch the rest of the panel. then I'm going to actually do the front panel on that side of the box, the front panel nearest to the cab, and key the vertical corner on that side. So that would be the corner that would be glued to the front edge, and the bottom edge will be glued to the floor panel and the tray itself. So that's the plan today. The issue I have, believe it or not, is I'm down to my last 3 600mm sausages, and it's a holiday today, even though it's Monday, and it doesn't look likely that the post is going to be delivered today. So I'm waiting on some post tomorrow. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any more sausages. I've managed to get hold of some a cartridge type of the same product. It's still HB Fuller MS toolbox, but it's in 400mm cartridges, which is fine. I've ordered a box of 12. They should be here tomorrow, but I'm hoping I've got enough to at least glue this panel on, and then we can do all the trimming and gap filling afterwards when that stuff arrives. I would leave it another day, but it's like anything, I've managed to get 2 or 3 guys to come around at the same time on the same day at the same place type of scenario, and that's not easy to do, and so I have to take advantage of these situations because I cannot do this on my own. So that's what's going to happen today. Hopefully I'll be able to set up the cameras in strategic spots because to get some footage, but again, the priority is getting this panel on. One of my friends, love him, he's coming off a night shift to give me a hand, so, and that's Mick. Cheers Mick, thanks for your continual support and advice as well, especially with the filming part of it. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get this panel on today. Luckily I got my neighbour roped into this one, so there's 4 of us actually manhandling this panel. The wind wasn't very kind to us on that day, and a couple of times the gusts were quite scary when the panel was vertical. Nevertheless, we got it on there, and there are a few issues which I'll explain later. But anyway, enjoy the footage. The next day I decided to take the bottom bit of wood off and the clamps just to double check that the glue hadn't stuck to the wood and that everything was all right and pretty flat and flush. What you see me doing here is testing one of the cover panels, which I'm going to put the aluminium cover panels, or trim if you like, which is what is used in Pantech trucks. And I was just having a go at clamping it on and making sure it looked all right, and there was nothing that was of any concern when I got to that point later down the line. On top of the world, or it feels like I am. I'm on top of the ladders, I mean right on the last step. And just to give you some orientation, I'm on the overhang at the rear. That panel being put in quite a while back where the doors are going, but this was yesterday's effort. And I just wanted to show you while I'm up on the ladders before I start taking things apart. Yeah, it's a bit difficult with the shadows here, but that's the top of the panel. You can see how many clamps I've got on there. It's very glaring now. It was glaring putting it up because of the white reflection. It actually sunburns you from underneath, a bit like being on a snow slope. The wind might be a bit irritating because it is blowing as usual. So I've just started taking some clamps off just to see how well it fits, how flush it fits, and I'm actually really thrilled. You can see this little quite delicate bit of the 2mm fiberglass that's been routed out, well actually cut out with my plunge saw to give this lip here, and all this is going to hold the roof panel, including all this here, right into this corner, and then from this corner all the way across to the other corner. And it really is blowing now, so you probably can't hear a damn word I'm saying, but that's all. That surface area is going to be glued, and obviously all along there, and you might just see that there's a lip on that back one that matches this lip here, and obviously when the other panel on this side goes on, yeah, we'll have the same. So all this wood here and clamps is to keep everything straight. I've noticed it wanted to try and bow a little bit where the window aperture is down there. I'm gingerly going to take some steps down before I break my neck. I'll leave that clamp there, I think. So here we go. So the reason why I started dismantling it, even though it's only been on there for about 24 hours, not even that, is just to check this here, because for some reason we forgot to put a clamp around this area. So it was a long day as usual yesterday, lifting. Not everything was on GoPro because unfortunately when you're working with a bunch of mates helping you out, the last thing you want to do is waste too much of their time, although I'm sure they'd be fine with it. I had my neighbour across and a couple of mates helping me out to get this panel on, and thank God they were here. And with the wind being the way it is, 4.5 meter panel by 2.5 meters, it's basically a giant parachute, I guess. And when it did blow a couple of times, it would quite easily, I reckon, knock 3 people over. But anyway, here it is. So it's a bit difficult again with these shadows. So I've taken this bit of wood off here, and you can see that's just super flush. It's just here, I was a bit concerned because it's just gone over there. But to be honest, by the time I put the plate on there and the glue, I'll never see it again. And it's nice and flush all the way down to this point. I'm going to leave that on for a bit more longer. My homemade clamps were to treat, as you can see. And remember, I made them so I could get past this buttress. And we come to the front corner, and you can see that's really well clamped there. I'm going to leave that for a bit longer to make sure it sets. Right, so just to recap on this today, 4 guys, 3 basically maneuvering the panel while I was rushing around, making sure everything was fitting, grabbing things from wherever I need them, tools, bits and pieces, to get the thing in where it's supposed to go. There was an issue with the corner, would not go flush with the side of the truck, and we figured out eventually there was a couple of weld beads that I completely forgot about. Panel had to come off again and then get those chamfered down with a flappy disc on a grinder. Put it back on, still had issues. There was a bit of glue from when I did the floor, so I had to cut that out, and then eventually it fitted properly. Part of the reason why we were having trouble fitting it is because, if you remember, the front bow, I designed it so it was pushing about 10 mil at the top. And the idea was to push it back, put the panel up, and let it relax and squeeze the glue out. I'd forgotten all about that while we were doing it, and it only struck me just right towards the end, and I was like, ah, that's why it's not working. So every time we put the panel in, it was too far back because it was being pushed already from the top. So one of the guys who was on the inside, every time we fit the panel, I got to push the bow out, got the gap correct at the back, and make sure that it was actually where it's supposed to be. It is actually slightly narrow at the top, literally by about 4 mil, and I'm thrilled with that. It actually just makes the box like grip tighter like this, especially at the front. The back's not going to move because it's so solid. And bearing in mind, I still haven't put the actual triangulating framework underneath this box, because obviously I wanted to keep it as low as possible. So that's only going to happen when it's back on the truck. It's going to be a while yet. So the buttresses work well, they're solid, and they're going to take any abuse that that back tail lift will have on the box itself without damaging the actual fiberglass panels, because they're nowhere near it. Gluing wise, there's at least 80 plus 20, 30 mil, sorry, of gluing surfaces on the back here. That's basically 110 centimeters of gluing area going all the way up. So that's a lot of surface area. The bare minimum, they reckon, for this type of construction, according to my research, is 50 mil gluing surface is adequate to hold the box together. And if I was to make this box out of just panels, I would, without a steel framework, I would have gone for a 50 mil thick panel just to go with that rule of minimum 50 mil gluing surfaces. My box is only 30 mil thick, except for the ceiling or the roof, which is 50 mil, and I wanted that because basically that's where the radiant heat's coming from the sun, and that's where heat rises on the inside, so I wanted to keep that R value as high as possible without going crazy. Gluing took a bit of time to do all the zigzagging. Unfortunately, I haven't got any footage of that because 3 of us were holding the panel while I was gluing. There was nobody there to hold the camera. Once the glue was on, it was a case of get that panel on there as quick as possible, and just for good measure, I just gave the surfaces one more clean with methylated spirits in case we placed the panel on the floor a couple of times, even though it was on bits of wood that were reasonably clean. This was my last chance to do that. So that was done, got it on there, and we started clamping. Overall, I'm very happy with that. Considering it was a bit windy, not the ideal conditions, very warm, again not ideal, it was put on and I was relatively happy with that. Onwards and upwards to the next panel, I say.
So here we go again. This is the final side panel, or the passenger side panel. Another view from the top of the box of me and Mick marking out the cutouts, and again this one is a lot more complicated. There are 3 hatches on this one and 2 windows plus the entrance door, so it did require a lot of measuring, marking and double checking and triple checking. You'll notice earlier on in the video I keep referring to my phone. The reason I'm doing that is I've taken a screenshot of my design on AutoCAD of the measurements of the panel and where the apertures go, and rather than me going in and out or dragging the laptop out, I just put it on my phone. There's a clearer view there of the actual cutouts that are going to be cut out, and again the hatches won't be cut out completely, but the windows will be. I can't even see because it's so bright. With all this, all this whiteness there, just white everywhere. It's quite glaring, so fortunately I can't see these days because, you know, age-related crap. So I'm gonna put these on first, and then I'm gonna put these on top. Yes, I know, I need to get some polarized prescription glasses or something, but anyway, I haven't got time for that. Today, this panel is going to go on there. So we're almost 5/6 of a box. We're at 4/6 right now. I was hoping to get it on yesterday, but yeah, time ran away. There's a lot of cutting on this panel to do. So if I orientate you, you'll see, I can't see it because of the glare, but that's the door there. So all I've done is cut the straights while it's flat. It's a lot easier than to do it when it's upright, and just left the corners in to give the panel some stability. Same here. The only one I've opened is that one, because I found having the apertures for the windows open, there's a lot more material around them, so they're less likely to fracture or warp or anything silly like that. Plus I can communicate with the person on the inside much more easily, and they can peer out through the window if you like. So we've got one hatch, two hatches. This will actually be underneath the fridge, and that's my boot area to match the one that's, I don't know if you can see it somewhere there, behind the ladders. So this is basically the front. The bed will be there, that's the top, and that's the back. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is cut the rebates out for the ceiling, for the roof. So I've already cut it with the saw, with the plunge saw to the correct depth. And what I'm going to do now is cut it out with a steely knife. I might need a longer blade, so I'll see how we're going. But yeah, I'm just going to set you up on something like a tripod and show you how I do it. I'm sure this is how everybody does it. So, wow, it's bright today. I'm hoping there'd be a bit more cloud, but it ain't happening today. So here we go. Let's drop this down a bit. Hope you can't see this, but there's a glue seam right there, and it's really well bonded. So what we've got here is masking tape, about 40 mil from the bottom, so we can scuff up this edge. This tape will be like sacrificial, as you can see with this one. It's been scuffed up, and then we'll rip that off and put another fresh bit of good quality masking tape that will be the edge of the mastic or the adhesive. Same as this, you can see the rebate sanded back. No traces of the blue foam. Comes around here and carries on all the way down there. So what I'm about to do is what Mick's doing, which is peeling away plastic of about 35 mil on this one. And ready to put the masking tape and rough it off. Where is that? Yeah, all those scratches going to help there. Alright, let's do. This one was a bit harder in the sense that there was only 3 of us that could be at the same place at the same time, and the advantage on this one was a bit more space to maneuver the panel. We didn't have to tuck in behind my fence and the side of the box, so in that sense it was easier to maneuver back and forth. But as usual, it needed quite a few dry runs and trimming and just taking care of any weld beads that might be a little bit proud and interfering with the edges of the panel. And as you can see, that's basically what we're doing there. It's just lifting, maneuvering, just aligning, making sure everything is good. The glue wasn't in the way from the previous floor panel, and just bits and pieces like that, height wise on both corners. And once I was satisfied, eventually it came back off and was set up for gluing. So the usual stuff, methylated spirits, cleaning all the surfaces, and then make sure the masking tape was in the right spots, strategically placing the suction cups, and as you can see, there's that steel bar and a bit of wood on top of it. That's to stop the panel from actually touching any dirt or dust, to mitigate any contamination with the glue itself. Wiping all the surfaces with methylated spirits to make sure all the contact surfaces are clean. This is the last chance you get to do stuff like that, so that's what I'm doing there, and then preparing to get the adhesive on. I've got Mick using his another caulking gun, because I had both the 600mm sausages in one gun and the 400mm cartridges in another, so we were lucky this time we could both be at applying the glue rather than just me applying the glue, because that was the only way to do it on the last side panel that was done before, and that meant that it just sped the whole process up, and just made life a lot more easy. I'm wiping the glue, is what you're seeing me doing right now, that is squeezed out as the panel dropped, because I don't want the wood that's going to clamp it in place to be glued to the panel overnight, and or at least make it as minimal as possible. That's what you can see me doing there. This was both an exciting day and a very apprehensive day for me. This is the final panel being the roof panel, which was the largest panel at 5 meters by 2.5 meters. So it weighed at least 100 kilos, and unfortunately I could only get the two of us there that day to do it. Mick, reliable as ever, was game for the challenge, because believe you me, that it was a challenge. And Mick, ever sensible, made a suggestion perhaps that on that particular day it would be prudent maybe if we'd waited for another person, but me being me, wanting to get it done, pushing for things to be finished, decided to go for it. And of course Mick, as ever, supported me through that decision. I don't want to bore you with the construction of the panel, but those two apertures that you see on the panel, one is for the skylight that goes above the bed, that's nearest to you, and the other small one is the max air fan aperture. But there was no need to show you how to do that, because I've already shown you enough times in the previous clips of the other panels. So what we're doing here is getting the panel ready to lift it up onto the roof, and we're finding various ways of attaching my contraption that I made, which was like a piece of wood that fit between the apertures, that we could get a sling through the apertures and onto this piece of wood that spread the load underneath the panel. The panel did have aluminium extrusions right throughout it. They were there for two reasons. One is to provide strength in the panel so that you could walk on it when you're on the roof, and the others, they acted as trunking for any wiring that needed to cross over from one side of the box to the other without being seen on the ceiling, so the wires could be ducted, if you like, through the panel. But anyway, at this point we're trying to lift the panel and test how well this duct lifting machine was going to perform, and unfortunately I couldn't get the original machine I had when I lifted the rear frame up and the front frame up. This one was from another hire shop, and unfortunately the one tine had a broken weld on it, and when we put the extension bars on there, it really did not like it and started to sort of sag and bend a little bit. It didn't break anymore, but it definitely bent. So it got to a point where we had to cantilever it, and that's what we did here. So I managed to cut some wood down, shove it through the tine from the back, and fill a jug of 20 litres and hang it off as far back as I could. That really helped, as well as having the tines tied together with a bit of steel as well. Now the next challenge was trying to push the whole contraption towards the box. Unfortunately my driveway is literally about an inch up above the gravel, and trying to lift those front wheels, which were the smaller ones, up and over that bit of concrete was a challenge in itself. I had to use a lever to get each wheel up and over from the gravel on. Nevertheless, we got it done and it fit like a glove. Oh. Roof is on, Mick. Give me a high five. Woo! I can't believe it's on. It's actually on, and it fits like a glove.
Very heavy glove, but a glove.
A very heavy glove. Look at my contraption. That thing worked like a, yeah. It worked well.
Jesus would have been proud. I'll have to cut that out.
Not that we're, what's the word? We're not religious or anywhere affiliated to any religion. Oh, the sun.
speaker hanging off the back of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. But you can see by the angle of that steel how much that tine has moved. Unfortunately, we were given a Duff machine with broken welds and a twisted tine.
But we used it anyway.
Well, we used it anyway because we haven't got any choice. But I tell you what, it's a bloody good machine. It's just this one is a bit more abused than the one the other one I had.
This not the one
Was
you
a
had
much
last
no, this wasn't the one. The other one was much better, but it's exactly the same. What you see here is we're applying the glue, so we're lifting and tilting the roof panel rather than taking it off because the wind had started to pick up and we didn't want any accidents, if you like. How good is this? We've actually got the roof on. I'm not sure how much footage you got from yesterday. I'm just going to show you how these clamps went on because I've got to adjust this one while the glue is still reasonably soft. I'm just climbing the ladder and getting up. So I'm on the top rung of the ladder. That's how high this thing is. And the sun is on. Look at this. This is how it ended up yesterday. Clamps that you saw me make have worked to treat. So that's the clamp. There's the piece of wood in between to make sure we got an even pull on the whole thing. And I then screwed these into this batten here to make sure it stayed in place and it was at least level with the roof line, with the help of my best mate Mick, who's worked like a demon. In fact, we work so well together. I'd love to work on more projects with Mick because yeah, very intuitive guy and thinks outside the box, especially when it comes to forward thinking, like safety and options and what could happen, what might happen if we did this, what's the sort of alternative option that may or may not cost money or stuff like that. It's really good to have someone like that who thinks like that. I'm a bit of a sort of let's get on with it, bit of a perfectionist at the same time, but get to the point where I just want to get it done. And I think that's important too, because otherwise things never get done. So I'm just a bit concerned the gap here is a bit wider than I'd like. It's about 3 mil, maybe 4, and I've consistently gone for about a 1 and 1.5 mil gap on everything, like this one here, if you can see that, all the sun. So I've altered this one. It was here somewhere. I'm bringing it here right in the center of this gap, and I'm about to put it on. So I'm just going to demonstrate what I did yesterday. Sorry about the camera angles because I don't want to fall off this ladder. So I basically screw these in. That's that one. Do the one on this side. So that's this side done. So I'm going to get down the ladder and show you how I use my wedges on that side. You can see them just there with the hammer, and hopefully over time the force will slowly push that glue a little bit tighter than that. And it may be too late, I don't know, but I can leave it for a couple of days. There's one thing I've noticed with this glue: it skins quickly, but it takes its time in the core to set, and that's what I'm trying to play with here, is to get that core to sort of just bulge a little bit more, and lifting this ladder, yeah, bulge a bit more, and tighten up another mil or so. So let's hope that works. So here I am. Use the shaky camera. Close to there. So there's that one. It's a little more biased to the back. And let's see if I can set up this camera. So again, top of the run.
We are nearly 3 meters above the ground here. Not quite, but close. So, got this gap here. 2 wedges, and I've marked them so they're a matching pair. Came off the same piece. Probably showed you that when I made them. So I narrow them down like this, nice and thin. Put them in, and then I'm wondering whether to do this on the other side. If this doesn't work, that's what I'll do. So you can see there's quite a gap. So push the wedges in. Like so. Until I'm happy with where it's sat. And then I start holding this one and bashing the other one. That's nice and tight. I'll go and check the other side and see if it's pulling. I don't think it'll pull straight away. I think it'll slowly pull, if at all. But we've got to do it while it's soft. Not sure why I never finished this one. Not all the screws are in here. Maybe. I think it's trying to jam it. Can't really go much more here because there's a funny cut there. So I'm going to leave it like that.